because the council wants to pull the building down. But the plight of young people in the constituency is, as you rightly say, Rathore Sahib, a disgrace, a national disgrace that most of the nation doesn't know about. If you take my street alone, for example, Hollings Road, it is a problem street. There's a lot of bad things happen there. The young boys there that are doing the bad things, they weren't always bad. Once upon a time, they went to the masjid. Once upon a time, they listened to their father and their mother. Once upon a time, they would have been ashamed of the censure of their extended families or even their neighbours. But they've lost all of these things. These boys are running wild. They have no college, no university, no job, and no hope of one. So if we don't rescue that generation, then the 50% of Bradford's population who soon will be aged under 25 becomes not an asset, but a ticking time bomb. It becomes thousands of young boys, testosterone-fueled young boys with no hope. And heaven help us if that occurs. And heaven help the country that allows that to occur. You mentioned the centre, Carlisle Business Centre, and the closure of, by the council, the disabled and elderly people's facilities there. This is happening all over Bradford. Manningham Pool, a Victorian treasure, which many people used for swimming, has been shut and auctioned and bought, by the way, for £65,000. A Victorian treasure for £65,000. A bargain by any reckoning. I was in several youth clubs, as you know, yesterday, who don't receive a single penny, not a penny, from the local authority or from the national government. Yet these clubs are taking youngsters off the street who would otherwise be getting up to mischief on the street and puts them in a boxing ring or gives them a set of weights to press. And boys that are boxing and weightlifting are not outside in the street causing trouble for themselves and for other people. We should be investing heavily in this. And it's simple maths, quite apart from morality. It costs £50,000 a year to keep a young man in prison. It's more expensive to keep a young man in prison than to send a young boy to Eton, like Mr. Cameron enjoyed. So if you gave a fraction of 50,000 for each young boy to have a youth club and youth facilities and sports facilities to save them from leaving the path of the straight and narrow, then the taxpayer would actually be in profit to an enormous extent, and young lives that have been wasted might have been saved.
Thank you, George. Brother Riaz.
Hello, I'm Riaz from Bradford. And what I would like to ask is about postal votes. 2 questions here about postal votes. What are your opinions on postal votes? And you always hear on the streets that these postal votes are abused. Alleged postal votes, I say alleged, are taken from residents by force or for against their will. And basically, you know, I've heard stories that people have gone to Pakistan, for example, they've taken those votes and used them. What's your view on that? And plus, if you think that's happening on the streets, what are you doing about it? Because it's a double-edged sword. You're fighting the opposition, plus you're fighting another battle.
Well, 2 very good questions, Asif Bhai. The situation in Bradford is chronic so far as postal vote fraud is concerned. And people have gone to prison for it. People have gone to prison in Manchester, they've gone to prison in Birmingham, they've gone to prison in East London, and the pattern is the same. I'm not accusing any individual person of this, but this pattern of bribing postmen, retrieving people's ballot papers from their letterbox without their knowledge, going to derelict properties where postal votes have been applied for and retrieving them from there, paying, for example, East European immigrants £5 for their ballot paper is commonplace. And it's theft, it's fraud, it's the cheating of the public from the proper democratic process. And it's happening now as we speak in Bradford West. I know that because of the track record in the constituency, and I know it because of the anecdotal evidence that we are receiving hourly, less than hourly. Every 5 minutes we get a call about one abuse or another of the postal vote system. All I can say to you is The police are onto it. They're visiting people's homes. They're checking that people did apply for a postal vote and that they did fill it in without intimidation. They did sign it themselves. They did post it or deliver it themselves. They didn't give it to someone else to do it for them, and that nobody filled in their ballot paper for them. The police are hot on it because I am the country's foremost critic of the postal voting system. I opposed it in Parliament at the time. It used to be, when I started in politics, that you only got a postal vote if you were ill or disabled or because of professional or work reasons simply couldn't be in the constituency on polling day, and that was only for the one election that you applied for it for. They changed the rules so that once you apply for a postal vote, you get a postal vote for the rest of your life, whether you want it or not. And that's open to abuse because people move. What have we done? We've hired 2 private detectives. We've got photographers on the streets taking pictures of known or suspected miscreants. We've got people inside the post office, inside the workers' union, the Post Office Workers' Union, giving us information about attempts to suborn and even bribe. Imagine, in Britain in 2012, people offering postmen money if they would corruptly hand over their ballot papers. So I hope that I'll win this election by a decisive margin. But if the margin of defeat, were I to be defeated, is small, as I think is the only conceivable circumstance in which I could be defeated, given the size of the campaign we have, then you can be sure it'll be a national scandal.
Okay, thank you very much, George. Viewers will have more questions, but now we're going for another break. I will come back after a few minutes. Thank you very much. Welcome back, viewers. We are discussing by-elections in Bradford West, and with us we have George Galloway, leader of Respect Party, and we have people in the audience who are keen to ask questions, and we'll straight away go to Brother Ishfaq Awan. Your question, please.
George Galloway, I stand before you as a symbol of my respect for your experience in British politics and in the Parliament.
Thank you.
My question to you would be, what is the new legislation and acts of Parliament you're going to introduce, if elected, to British Parliament, for the coexistence of United Kingdom with the Islamic world?
Well, that's a very good question, and thank you for your kind remarks. I have specialized all my political life in the foreign affairs field. I was for 18 years the elected deputy chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. I was removed after 9/11 because of my flat and outright opposition to the course on which my country was embarked. And I wear that expulsion as a badge of honour, because everything that I said and did since 9/11 has been fully vindicated by events, and if the powers that be had listened to what I had said at the time, we wouldn't be in the mess that we are in. I think there are a number of important changes that need to be made, but the fundamental one is this. The idea that somebody gave us the right, even the duty, maybe even God, gave us the right to go around the world invading and occupying other people's countries and changing their political systems, has to be killed in this country. This idea has to be strangled and finally placed in the ground with a stake through its heart, because that's what leads us ineluctably over and over and over again into conflict. And all you have to do is beat the war drums, demonize a Muslim leader. You know, before it was Saddam Hussein. Well, in fact, you can go right back to the Mahdi at the Battle of the Omdurman at the beginning of the 20th century. The Mahdi was this madman who had to be extirpated by the white crusaders for the sake of the world. And go right through Gamal Abdel Nasser, the president of Egypt. Anthony Eden described him as the Hitler on the Nile, the mad dog of Cairo, and all of this. Through Saddam Hussein, and now it's the Iranian regime. We broke Iraq into pieces and killed 1 million of its people, when any schoolboy must have known that an inescapable consequence of destroying Iraq was you would make Iran more powerful. So we made Iran more powerful, and now we want to have a war with Iran. This is a kind of never-ending cycle of violence and counter-violence. The difference, by the way, with Iran is that Iran can hit us back, and will, if we hit her, and in ways perhaps more terrifying than we currently know. So my push in the Parliament will be for an end to the war in Afghanistan, and no more wars, and the beginnings of an addressing of the fundamental causes of instability and conflict in the area and between the Muslim world and the non-Muslim world. I'll give you just 2 examples, both of which I've been closely involved with. The issue of Kashmir is more than 60 years old and is the subject of a United Nations Security Council resolution, which India accepted and undertook to implement, but which has never been done. So the right of self-determination of the people of Kashmir has been robbed of the people. And I campaigned on this for many decades. I'm decorated by the government of Pakistan itself with the Hilali Pakistan for my work on the issue of Kashmir. And this issue is a running sore in the relations between India and Pakistan, both nuclear-armed countries. It fuels extremism and fanaticism, not to mention the complete demoralization of the people in the occupied territory, with 600,000 Indian soldiers brutally occupying the territory and killing 100,000 people in Kashmir and using rape as a weapon of politics and war. I've visited the women in the refugee camps in Muzaffarabad several times. So we have to address these issues and solve them, or they will be the source of future terrorism and war. And the second is, of course, the Palestine question, in which I've been to the fore all of my political life. I am the founder of Viva Palestina. As Asif kindly referred earlier to my charity work, we took millions and millions of pounds worth of aid into the besieged Gaza Strip, fighting our way through the armed forces and the secret police of the dictatorships in the Arab world along the way. The Palestinian issue has to be addressed, not just because it's in the interests of the Palestinians and the Jews who live there, by the way, but also because it's a source of terrorism and war.
Thank you, George. We have a caller from Bradford, and then we'll come back to Shajid Malik. Assalamu alaikum. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Ji, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Ji, brother, what would you like to ask?
I would just like to ask, right, I met George Galloway in Bradford Uni.
Yeah.
I had a yellow top on, and I was there saying I was going to vote for Imran Hussein, but I take that back.
Okay, and your name is?
Javed Khan.
Javed Khan. He said he was going to vote for Imran Hussein, but he changed his mind.
Well, thanks, Javed. I think that's the reason why Imran Hussein refuses to appear on any television show or any platform other than the BBC, which was mandatory. He refuses to appear in any hustings or debates with me, like the one that you attended, if it was the one I have in mind, the university one. There was an empty chair and his name and a glass of water waiting for him, but he didn't come. Maybe it was the glass of water that did it. I don't know.
Thank you very much, brother. I would straight go to Shajil Khan Malik.
Well, first of all, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.